It's your Dockmaster Michael Atilano, and you are listening to the Starboard. The guest for this episode is JC Soul, who's here to talk about her single releases, Our Groove, and her most recent release, Best of Things. Welcome aboard, JC.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's talk about your new singles. And actually, let's start with Our Groove, and let's talk about how that all came together.
Well, what happened was I had been recording some cover songs back in 2020, and that was kind of fun, but I wasn't really going anywhere with distributing them because of, expensive sync licenses and things like that. So I decided to start writing. So I met with my producer and I gave him a few ideas, and we came up with Our Groove.
Since we got our groove, everything's brand new. Now we're stuck like glue. Since we've got our groove.
Just as we do with all of the songs, it's always sort of like a work in progress, and we decide near the end whether we want to go big with it or not. But Our Groove was really, really working out nicely. I ended up actually going to a second producer with it who had a lot of bells and whistles and really made it sound slick. So that was like an amazing, amazing journey for me because I didn't expect much of it, but it got a lot of airplay. Really happy with it.
I know it's on a lot of stations. How did that happen?
Well, how it happens is, first of all, we have a smooth jazz station here in Canada out of Ontario and Vancouver. And I had a personal relationship with the woman that owns that station from the past when I was trying to market my cover songs. And also my producer and a couple of the musicians that played on the song had a relationship with her. Her name is Mary Kirk. So I just touched base with her and asked her if she'd play the song, and she did. And from there, it sort of grew organically. Posting things on social media really helps because you sort of piggyback on other artists' triumphs. They'll post something saying, "Thank you, so-and-so radio station for playing my song." So I just find that information. And the more and more people that you connect with, the more and more radio connections and music curator connections you have. And it's just like snowballs.
It's amazing because I see that song and so many different channels and associated groups that I'm a part of. And so it seems like everyone's really picking up
That's
on
great. That's
on
great.
that song. And so leading to your next single, The Best of Things, tell me about how that one got into fruition.
Well, that one was a little different. We wanted to, have the same sound so people could identify who I am, but we wanted to do something slightly different. So we went with the horn section on it, which was a lot of fun because I loved, the music of Chicago and I love the music of Tower of Power and all those great horn bands. So it was really fun putting it together, and we got some great musicians for that one.
Both songs are completely different than the next. The first one has more of a hip hop feel, but the second one has more of a throwback soul and R&B. I don't really know how to describe it. All I know is I get a lot of reminiscent feelings of songs from the great past.
You can have the best of things, sweetheart. Come on now, we'll take it slow to start. You can have the best of things, sweetheart. Baby, I know.
I think of Dusty Springfield. I hear some Chicago. It sounds like lounge music that you would hear in Europe from like Millie
Yeah.
Small. I don't know how to explain it, but was that your intention behind it, or did that just come together?
It just comes together like that. When I record a song, I don't really have an intention for as to, what era it appears to be coming from. But people have even told me with Our Groove that it sounds like a throwback. So I'm happy about that. I didn't do it intentionally, but we'll keep going with it.
Let's talk about your background as a vocalist, performer, songwriter. How did all that stuff get started for you?
Well, I was a singer, from the very beginning. I sang when I was a kid. It's sort of an innate talent that I got from genetically from my mother. She was also a singer. She was a big band singer. So, there's a lot of singing and vocalizing going on in the house, and she had a huge record collection of all the old jazz standards and amazing people from, the eras of the 50s and the 60s. So it sort of happened with me organically. Just to fast forward to when I started professionally, there was a lot of touring. It was a couple of decades ago, but I did a lot of touring. 8 months out of the year, I wasn't home. We did some great gigs. We played in Europe, Switzerland, and Germany. We were there for about 3 months. I did Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Hilton and the Reno Hilton. Actually did the Fontainebleau in Miami once. So there was a lot of exposure there. But back then it was kind of like touring with top 40 bands, they used to call them. After a while, the grind just becomes a grind and, not much is coming of it. Just a lot of fun. I kind of got out of that after that and just played in local bands here and there after that.
What I don't think people realize, and I know it sounds like it's kind of like run of the mill, probably because you lived it, but that was a special era. There was an era of people writing and recording at one point, and they had to go through a struggle to get a record deal to afford it. And then I think in the 90s, it was still new to be in a cover band. It was still new to take those songs that were just released on the radio and then transfer them to live audiences. And it was like an era in itself as far as playing live and hearing live bands, going to conventions, going to the Hilton and seeing a lot of these bands, where I think nowadays it's not really as appreciated as it used to be. And nowadays also, especially post-COVID, getting that old wheel turning again, it's kind of a different era on that specific time and performing. Who are your influences as a vocalist growing up?
Well, growing up, Motown was a big influence for me. I was completely in love with Diana Ross, all of the great women of the era. Right now, I'm like people like Layla Hathaway and Lindsay Webster, and there's so many great vocalists out there that I love. But I think if you're asking what I grew up with and what I really loved back then, it had to have been the Motown bands. There were so many of them. They were so fabulous and so inspiring, and that's why I love R&B today and soul.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I hear a lot of soul in your music, no pun intended to your last name, but there is a lot of soul. I almost thought that you were a different ethnicity because of your vocal style.
That is such a compliment. Thank you.
Who is the personnel that you were working with for your current 2 tracks?
Lou Bartolomucci is my producer. He's also a very talented musician. He plays keyboards and guitar. So he helps me develop the songs. He engineers it. He contacts all of the musicians, writes charts for them all, collects all their tracks that he sends to them. I mean, he just sort of puts everything together for me. The musicians that I used for Our Groove were Steve Heathcote, who is like a world famous drummer. He's great. Calvin Beal, great bass player. I did actually work with another singer on Our Groove to do a few backups that we sort of doubled each other on to make it sound really thick. And that would have been it, along with Lou playing guitar and keyboard. When you think about the musicianship that is on Best of Things, it's just incredible because we had 4 different types of brass. We had a trumpet, a flugelhorn, saxophone, and a trombone. So Tony Carlucci, who's an amazing, amazing horn player, he actually plays with a band called Brass Transit. Brass Transit does all Chicago covers, and they're an incredible band. He did the flugelhorn and the trumpet, and William Karn was on trombone, and then Michael Massaro on saxophone. And again, Steve Heathcote and Calvin Beal were the bottom end.
You mentioned Chicago. I have a group, well, a couple of different groups. One of them is a smooth jazz radio group, but one of them is a group that celebrates yacht rock. And so I see a lot of the personnel from Chicago, people such as Danny Serafine. He's a group member. So he was the drummer for the longest time. And then Donnie Dacus, who replaced, or actually he filled in after Terry Kath, unfortunate situation that had happened with him. And so I have a personal connection when you say Chicago. Also, what you just mentioned with the brass, the flugelhorn and the trombone, that adds the bottom depth of the warmth to your music. That song specifically, it gives it a very overall well-rounded sound. Not only that, I used to play in marching band growing up. And so anytime that you can hear a good horn section, if it makes you want to pick up your horn, it's a good horn section. And so your horn section on Best of Things is fantastic.
Thank you.
I know that you had been working previously to these 2 songs. Do you want to tell us about your EP?
Well, the EP was 6 cover songs. So that sort of came together from a connection that I made on social media. And we decided to go into a studio in Toronto, actually, and record these as opposed to a home studio. So all the musicians were on site. I got to meet them all. It was great. It was a nice experience. I sort of just picked some of the songs from the past that I really loved and emulated them. And it turned out pretty well for my very first EP recording. I was pleased with it.
I listened to your entire catalog that you have on Spotify, and I got to say that even though maybe that wasn't your intention to have one sound like the next, as far as being in unison of the sound, when
Wow.
you began your EP, what led up to that?
Well, I had touched base with somebody that I knew who's actually an entertainer here and a singer in Canada. And sometimes he produces people. And he asked me if I was interested in doing it. So that's how it all started to happen. And then I sort of just went and thought, well, what are my most favorite songs from the past that I'd like to do? And kind of went through a bunch of them. His idea, he said, come up with 25 songs and then pick 6 of them. So I kind of did that, and I went through, and the 6 that I picked, I really, really loved. The one that I did, do you know who Mark Jordan is? He's an American. He's a musician living in Canada now. He's written so many songs for so many people. The song that I did of his was Since I Left My Heart. And it's such a beautiful jazzy song that even though it wasn't well known, I really wanted to do it. And I think that's one of the ones that I'm most pleased with. The other one was Working on a Groovy Thing. I love Fifth Dimension. So I thought, let's do a different version of Working on a Groovy Thing. Call Me was sort of like a little Latin-y sounding vibe, which I love Latin music. So that one was great. The guitar player, Peter Mueller, for that, did this amazing Santana reminiscent solo in it. I don't know if you've listened to it. His guitar solo makes the entire song. Yeah, songs like that, it was a lot of fun to do. But as I say, it's hard to market it because you're not able to attach your image to any of these songs that are owned by production companies. So if you're big, it's no problem. If you're well known, it's no problem because you can afford that and you have record companies backing you up. But in my case, it wasn't. So it was a good learning experience as well. And it got me to writing my own stuff.
Very interesting that you brought up Mark Jordan, because he is another one of the personnel and people that are in the groups that I happen to be the administrator of. And Mark
Really?
Jordan
Wow.
had some legendary albums, the Blue Desert. One song in particular, Marina Del Rey,
Mm-hmm.
actually was one of the biggest, most influential songs. It was overlooked, I think, back at the time when it was released. But as of the present day, I feel like that song has really pioneered a different energy, because I've even heard a country song that refers to that song that's current on the radio. So it's interesting that you mentioned him. Fifth Dimension, I'm just bringing this up because maybe you should know, I don't know, it's just conversation pieces. Jimmy Webb grew up in the same hometown that I grew up in, and he lived 2 houses down from my grandmother, who recently passed. And so she told me that Jimmy Webb would be practicing all night and the Fifth Dimension would be over there sometimes. I think that was during the era of Up, Up and Away.
Wow. That is really cool. You're lucky.
That was before my time. That was, I think, 67. I was born in 75. I actually tried reaching out to Jimmy, but Jimmy does big things.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
When you mentioned Fifth Dimension, to me, that's another one that hits home as well.
What a great group. So amazing. The sound really brings you back to that era. It's just so beautiful and different. I love it.
Kind of psychedelic, kind of soulful, kind of pop.
Yeah, it was a different sound back then. When you listen to it now, it really takes you back to another time and place.
For some reason, the whole Aquarius thing was the theme of the era for other artists as well.
Yeah, it was like that movie and the play Hair.
Exactly.
Like 60s, man. Yep.
Was that the era you grew up in? I know it's kind of dumb asking that question now because we all have access to music.
Yeah, I was a young teen back then. I always say this. The music that people of my vintage grew up with, every decade was different. but every decade was fabulous. And I don't think that's happening now. It's kind of all melded together. It's good music, but it's not identifiable. The 50s had a sound, the 60s had a sound, the 70s, the 80s had an incredible sound. So I feel so lucky that that catalog of music is all in my head. It's wonderful.
Right. And I think what people overlook too, especially if anyone's into music that's younger, is that at that time, music was your canvas, where now everything's so visual. Back
Mhm.
then, you had to paint the vision. You had to literally make your own vision of what things were. You had to perceive it. Where nowadays, you can go on an app. And so I don't think it's as appreciated as it was back at those times when a lot of those ideas were being pioneered.
That's true. I mean, it's great that it's easier to access now. But the only problem with that is a lot of the artists aren't getting paid because you can play their music anywhere. So that's the downside of it. But to have access to this music, I got to say, I really enjoy it too. You can just go on YouTube, you can go on any sort of radio station, even on Chrome. If you go do a web search, you can find the music that you like. It just makes me think about when we were traveling back then and we had to do top 40 songs. We had to learn the words to these songs, right? So sometimes you can't understand the words, and we'd have to listen to it over and over again and write down the words, write down the words. And now you just go on the internet and you get lyrics for all this stuff. Everything is so easy now.
Well, sometimes the words still aren't right. If you look at the lyrics, you're like, hey, they didn't say
Yeah,
that.
I know.
I've heard someone say this to me about the Beatles, someone foreign. He's like, I learned English from listening to the Beatles. When I
Wow.
listened to Michael Jackson, the English wasn't as clear. When I listened to Madonna, the English wasn't as clear because if you notice, Michael Jackson says stuff like shaman instead of come on. So these words blend together. And I think the ethnicity still comes out in the performances subtly, where people that they grew up with the language, such as, I mean, when it's from England and stuff like that, you get a more clear, crisp word descriptions.
Yeah, I find even with watching television now, you can't understand what they're saying half the time. Everyone's gone sort of loosey goosey with it.
Let's talk about your songwriting processes. How did it go for when you wrote, for instance, Our Groove? How does it start for you?
It started for me when I was brushing my teeth, because sort of when you're doing stuff like that, your mind sort of wanders and you can sort of start imagining things. And that's what happened with Our Groove. I started thinking, okay, how could the melody go? And I come up with something and then I run out, get my phone and record that part of it. Well, this could be the chorus. And then you build a verse to it and you sort of add it on. And then you start with the lyrics. So it's a process. I love that part of the process because it's so fun and creative. There's no pressure. I don't put pressure on myself. I let everything come organically because I think that produces the best result. So once I've got something that I think is tangible, come down to my keyboard and plunk out the chords the best I can. I do have some early piano training, so I know how to read music. Plunk out the chords. I've got recording software on my computer. I record what I can into there along with the vocals, and I send it to my producer. And from there, we build on it. And the same thing with Best of Things. That's basically how it works. A lot of times, I spend days just with the song in my head and how it can go and the different chord progressions and how the feel should be as far as the meter and all of that, how many beats per minute. There's a lot of things to consider.
When I hear Our Groove again, it sounds like almost like you're singing it to either a child, a relationship spouse, or even to the Lord. It sounds very Christian.
I meant it to be a positive song for people who have found joy in their relationships, no matter what they may be.
Very uplifting.
That's good. That was the idea.
It literally can fit into any genre, I think, not just smooth jazz or R&B. It also can be played on a Christian station, which we do have Christian programming on Sunday, by the way, on Pacific Coast FM.
Great. That would definitely work. Yes.
So are there any plans right now to do anything live?
Currently, no. The opportunity, when it arises, I would always look at it. Right now, I'm really focused on writing and recording, though.
And what do you have right now going on as far as recording?
There's no release slated right now, but I am always writing, and my producer and I have a bunch of songs that we've already demoed, so we can always build on those. I think my goal is to maybe produce and record maybe 2 or 3 a year if I can, because it's always about the funding. So it all depends on how much I can manage to come up with these songs. For instance, our groove was a little bit more expensive because I went with a bigger producer. Best of Things wasn't too bad as far as cost goes. But, when you're an indie artist, there's no return on what you're doing a lot of the times, because when you send your music out to these radio stations, the communication between our SOCAN here, who's the governing body, and the radio stations doesn't always gel. So you're not seeing a return on that. So it's not like I'm investing money and seeing anything back. So I have to be careful about what I do and when I do it. When you put out an album, a lot of the songs sort of go missing. So I think this is a really good strategy to sort of put out 2 or 3 a year. And I think I'm going to stick with that.
The studio that you recorded at, where is it located at?
For our groove, I recorded at 2 studios, one in Oakville and one in Burlington. So these are cities that are very close in proximity. It takes me, I don't know, half an hour to get to each one in the car. I used to live in Burlington. I used to work in Oakville. I'm very familiar with these places. So really, really easy to get to. When I did the EP and we had to drive to Toronto every day, it was a big haul and it was difficult because it's a big city. And, driving through the traffic, trying to get there, it took a couple of hours sometimes, and it wasn't always fun. So I so appreciate these home studios. And as you know, more and more people are working out of home studios these days.
And also people are recording coast to coast, not even in the same areas.
It's so great. I have met some people on social media who, they haven't expressed an interest in collaborating. So that could happen for me in the future as well.
I honestly feel like there's this energy right now where everyone's watching each other for the right reasons now. Where before it was more competitive. Now I feel like everyone's looking to see like, hey, who's this vocalist? Maybe I can get her to record with me. I know there's definitely a couple of producers that are watching you for sure.
That's fabulous. We have to sort of boost each other up and piggyback off of each other's success because, as an indie artist, you need support and we can all support each other and we can all get ideas from each other, which is fabulous. It's really eye-opening to me. I've met so many nice people, talented people, and it's something that I really am grateful for.
How did you get in contact with Geert?
Oh, with Garrett? I'm trying to think. I think that on social media, he sent me a note. He probably saw my music somewhere, sent me a note saying, I can help you distribute these songs. So I remember at the time with our groove, I had already sort of invested in distribution for that. So I didn't use them then, but I told him I would use them for Best of Things, and I did, and he's doing a great job. I'm also going to be promoting with smoothjazz.com in LA starting on March the 1st. So I'm looking forward to that, to see what comes of that, because it'll be on their charts for a while. And that's really cool because that's like one of the biggest, most successful smooth jazz stations in the world. So I'm excited about that.
I've interviewed several artists that are on their charts currently. And for me, I'm just dumbfounded, just like yourself, where it's like, wow, I didn't expect this to happen. And then here I am with artists such as yourself. And it's like, you're presently on their charts. And if not, you're going to be because they're a heavy influential outlet for artists such as yourself and people like D.S. Wilson, who has a new album out, and Frost Duo. And I mean, these are all names that are starting to make their way, and such as yourself and Javali, who's fantastic as well.
I love to see when all of a sudden they're on that chart. I'm so overjoyed when I see that. It's so cool. And it gives hope to all of us.
And also there's another name out there, Will Donato. I used to sell music instruments years and years ago, and he used to come in and buy his reeds from my store. Well, It turns out that he played with the group called the Untouchables, which I had no idea of. And they were kind of a ska band, but he's a huge smooth jazz current artist. And, it's similar of what you're saying about independent. I think everyone at this point, and even if you have a record deal, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't carry the same weight as it used to. But I think for the most part, everyone's independent, including some of the personnel that have recorded in bands such as Chicago. Bill Champlin is another one. He works all the time. He's either on the road. I see him shoveling music with different artists, and he'll go and record and send his tracks back and forth. Bill Champlin is another one that's just, I see all the time, and his wife, Tamara Champlin. And so I don't know if you've heard that name, but he's the one that sings Look Away. And he was in a band called Sons of Champlin. He co-wrote the song After the Love Is Gone with Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh my God, so David Foster.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's something else, that guy. Yeah, he's incredibly talented.
Where can your music be found?
Well, I'm on YouTube. I would love it if people would subscribe to my YouTube channel. It allows you to monetize what you do. So, in other words, you're able to actually see a return on your music, but you need at least 1,000 subscriptions or more. So, I'd love it if people would subscribe to my YouTube. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Music and iTunes, Deezer, bunch of different outlets. But I guess the ones that are really popular and the ones that I really focus on are the Spotify and the YouTube. People can go there and listen to my stuff for free.
Exactly. For free, everyone. They love that word, right?
Seriously, it does help me in the end if I have a lot of subscribers to Spotify and YouTube. It would be very helpful. I would so appreciate it.
Do you have any plans for music videos for either of these releases?
Our Groove, I did a lyric video, and I also did another video. It's sort of like a dance floor scene in a club. And these are just ones that I sort of purchased online and got them together with my music. And that was a lot of fun. But as far as a live video, no, I haven't done anything like that. Again, it's funding. It's something that I would absolutely love to do. I'm not saying that I won't do it. You never know what'll happen. I'd love to.
What is your ultimate dream that's going to happen as things progress?
Well, I think, my dream is happening. I just hope that I can stay in the game and keep making more music and having what I do exposed to the public and having them like it and play it and get to know who I am. That's the dream right there. The music is really what I love. Of course, the stuff that goes along with it is all gravy, but being able to make music until I'm no longer around is just a dream for me. I'm going to keep doing it.
Leaving your stamp on this earth.
Yeah, leave something behind, right?
Are there any special people that you'd love to thank or give a nod to for helping you right now up to this process?
Oh, for sure. First of all, my husband, who's so dedicated and giving, and he really allows me to go ahead and do this with no reservations whatsoever. I mean, it takes a lot of my resources, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and he's in it 100% with me. So he's first. I want to thank my producer, Liba Tolomucci. He's incredible. I'm so happy. Michael Shotton was another producer on the first song with Our Groove. That guy has just got boundless energy, and he's an incredibly talented drummer and vocalist as well. And I want to thank all of the musicians that agreed to work on my project. They didn't know who I am. Now they do, but it was really fabulous of them to agree to do that. And to thank all of the people that give me feedback on social media about my music. It's just still overwhelming to me, and I'm thankful for every second of it. And I appreciate it, and I thank everyone, and I'm just beyond grateful.
JC, it's been great talking with you. And everyone, please check out all of her channels and most importantly, subscribe to her YouTube channel. But if you want to listen to her music, look her up on Spotify, and there you'll find her entire catalog and all the music that we talked about today. And it's just wonderful. And I wish you the most success going forward. And thank you so much for being a guest on the Starboard podcast. You have been listening to the Starboard with guest JC Soul.
Thank you, Michael.
To find out more about the Starboard podcast, look me up on Facebook. That's Dockmaster Mike on Facebook, and hit like and subscribe. There you will find information on all of our guests and past podcast episodes.